In an interview with Kyle Busch at the Atlanta race in 2023, Busch was on the record saying that we have completely lost any sense of respect in the garage between the drivers. It's just a problem where everyone takes advantage of everybody as much as they can. We're all selfish, granted, but there was an etiquette that once did live here. That's gone. A statement that surprised a lot of people initially. However, when fans look at the incident that happened at Phoenix a week before involving Chastain and Hamlin, as well as the multiple restarts at the end of the Circuit Americas race, the statement becomes more true. Respect is hard to earn in any sport, and with a few poor moves, respect can be immediately lost. The funny thing is, it feels like the level of respect in NASCAR has been gone for a long time. What has caused it? Has it been the new drivers coming in, the current veterans in the sport, or the way NASCAR puts on events? Well, to be honest, it has been a combination of all three. In today's episode, we will dive into the downfall of NASCAR's drivers' lack of respect. To find out where the lack of respect in the sport has started, let's first look at the current state of drivers and see if they have as little respect as Kyle Busch is stating. In the 2023 season, the Cup Series currently has two drivers running for the Rookie of the Year battle, Noah Gragson and Ty Gibbs. Two drivers who were highly successful during their time in the Xfinity Series, but not without controversy. Ty Gibbs has always been in the center of controversy. He came from a family of powerful members in the sport, which gave him the chance to receive the best equipment and strongest tools in order to succeed. This has led to a dominant driver, but one who hasn't had to struggle to get what he wants. Now, this is not to say that he doesn't work hard to finish near the front. In fact, he is considered one of the hardest workers when it comes to learning how to run the racetrack. However, when it comes to being respectful to other drivers, he is one of the worst. During his championship run in the Xfinity Series in 2022, Ty Gibbs managed to become public enemy number one by the end of the season. There were many cases where he would run into drivers, intentionally wreck others, and take cheap shots when he could find them. His most disrespectful moment would be in the fall race at Martinsville, when he decided to wreck Brandon Jones on the final lap in order to receive the victory that he did not need in order to advance on into the championship four. He could have raced his teammate cleanly as he had two opportunities left on the final lap. However, he didn't want to take any chances and would pile drive into the back of Jones's car with little to no remorse. The crowd showered him with boos, something that he egged on rather than trying to smooth over. One of the biggest critics after the race would be his arch rival, Noah Gragson, who also found himself in hot water due to his lack of respect on the track earlier that season. Noah Gragson is known as a more aggressive driver out on the track, but many thought he went too far after an incident involving him and Sage Karam at Road America. In the middle of the race, both drivers were bumping and banging into each other, causing slight damage and annoyance for both drivers. It was only a matter of time before someone would lose their patience, and it would be Noah Gragson at one of the most dangerous parts of the racetrack.
Josh Perry in the 8.
No! Slammed into the side of him, and he spins Sage Karam into the wall.
What a move by that yellow car of Jones to miss the wreck, and here comes the rest of the field.
They can't see. It's smoke and dust all the way across. More coming in too fast, and more contact.
A huge impact to Tyler Reddick in that 48.
Luckily, Noah Gragson hasn't had an incident like this happen again. However, he did prove to everyone that he is no different from his arch rival. Now, it's easy to find imperfection with rookies. I mean, they're still trying to figure out what it's like to race in the big leagues. The drivers who've been around the Cup Series for a couple years should be a little bit more respectful and understand the game a lot better, but unfortunately, there are many examples of them running with little to no respect. William Byron is one of my favorite drivers today. Now, it could be due to the fact that he wears big hats in Victory Lane, or the fact his career started on a video game, but the main reason is probably the fact that he drives the 24 car. William Byron hasn't caused too much controversy in his career, but when he does, he typically makes a big scene out of it. 2019 was around the time that Byron started putting his foot down against drivers on the track when he would be bumped out of the way on the final lap of stage 1 by Kyle Busch. Byron's crew chief at the time, Chad Knaus, would order him to retaliate against the 2015 champion, leading to an embarrassing moment for the young star.
William Byron goes up, and runs into the back of him to show him his displeasure. The problem is the damage is all to the 24.
A surprising moment for many, but one that we wouldn't see again until the 2022 season. During the first Darlington race of the season, Byron ran up Joey Logano on one of the final restarts. This resulted in Logano retaliating with just a couple laps to go, costing Byron the victory. Texas would be the tipping point for Byron as he endured more contact with another veteran of the sport, Denny Hamlin. This time, William Byron had enough with all the senseless contact and would make contact with the 11 car during the caution period. A big no-no in NASCAR, but one that wouldn't have any long-term effects as the 24 team won the appeal, receiving their points back. Byron may have won the battle that weekend, but at the same time showed that even the more neutral drivers in the sport tend to drive disrespectfully. William Byron had his moments in the spotlight for the wrong reasons, but nowhere near close to what we've seen out of the newest driver at Trackhouse Racing, Ross Chastain. Chastain started his career at humble beginnings, funding his career with his family-owned watermelon farm. He first started out with smaller teams in the Truck and Xfinity series before getting a full-time opportunity with Chip Ganassi Racing. He would show times of aggressive racing in his early days in the sport, but nothing too severe. That quickly changed in the Cup Series where he became one of the most aggressive drivers in NASCAR. A few examples of this include his many feuds with Denny Hamlin, wrecking a whole field in a superspeedway race, and even taking out Chase Elliott in a championship race at Phoenix. Now, all these examples did have good reasonings behind them, but it still doesn't excuse the fact that a lack of respect was shown on the Florida native. Does he have a job to win races? Absolutely. Does he always do it in a clean and respectful manner? Unfortunately, no. We can't blame him, but at the same time we can't call him a respectful driver either. Sometimes lack of respect only leads to hurt feelings and upset owners. It's when the lack of respect turns so dangerous that many in the sport finally say, enough is enough. Easily, the most polarizing driver in the Cup Series has been Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace has faced controversy throughout his entire career, both by his doings and others. The driver is passionate about what he does, but unfortunately his emotions can get the best of him. It has cost him points, sponsorships, and even his ride for one race. In the playoff race at Las Vegas Motor Speedway, Kyle Larson would get loose under Bubba Wallace, causing him to scoot up the racetrack, leading to Bubba Wallace hitting the wall. Bubba Wallace would lose complete control when he decided to wreck Kyle Larson into the front stretch wall, collecting Christopher Bell. Wallace wasn't done there, as he decided to go over to Larson, pushing him aggressively and losing his cool around everyone who communicated with him. The move cost him a ride for the next race, as well as all respect from most of the fan base, showing that even a few years in NASCAR's top division, drivers have had a hard time being respectful to others on the track. Now, based on all the past examples, many would consider that it's the younger generation's fault for the lack of respect on the racetrack. They are clearly the ones causing the issues, and the veterans cannot even talk to them on how to respectfully race on the track. I mean, drivers like Kyle Busch, Kevin Harvick, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, and even Joey Logano have always been respectful drivers in the sport, right? Well, not exactly. See, even the veterans that we see today have all been guilty of being disrespectful on the racetrack in their younger days. Many remember Kyle Busch's antics when he first stepped into the 18 car in 2008. His first win in the 18 car came under heavy fire when he decided that he would run into the back of the 1999 champion Dale Jarrett during his final lap for no particular reason. He would still get the win, but would lose a lot of credibility from that moment. The rest would be lost a few months later when he decided to drive into the most popular driver in NASCAR for no apparent reason.
Oh man, that was tight off turn 2. He's got him. I believe he's got him this time. Oh, he turned him.
No.
Oh, he turned him.
No.
Oh, no.
And wild thing, Kyle Busch makes contact with Dale Earnhardt Jr., and it looks like the drought will continue.
Boys, I'll just tell you something. That ain't going to go over too good right there.
No, it's not.
I love the little old boy to death, but that was not a good move right there. I was afraid of that when they got side by side late in the race on the old tires.
Fans soon realized that this could have been payback from an incident that happened a year prior. However, many would consider the move as one of the most disrespectful moments of 2008. In 2011, Kyle Busch was at his worst when he would intentionally wreck the likes of Kevin Harvick, Elliott Sadler, and Ron Hornaday. The last incident would result in a suspension for the future two-time champion, and is still considered to this day as one of the worst moments of revenge in NASCAR's history. Kyle Busch's 2011 incident would be the first time a driver got suspended for an on-track incident since 2002. The driver who would be suspended in 2002 would be none other than Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick may have become a calm driver in the second part of his career, but in the first half, he was anything but. People got a little taste on how angry Harvick would get after a confrontation on pit road from an incident between Greg Biffle and an Xfinity Series Bristol race. This would not be the incident that gave him a one-race suspension. That came 1 month later when he spun Coy Gibbs on purpose near the end of a Truck Series race in Martinsville.
And right.
Well, Jerry, Kevin Harvick's on his way to the garage. He's done for the day, not because he's tired of racing, but because NASCAR said you're not going to race anymore. And here's the reason. Not because he spun Coy Gibbs, but because he said on the radio before it happened, I'm going to go get him. So it was definitely intentional. NASCAR heard it on the radio, and they've said, Kevin, you're done for the day.
Many people thought this would calm down the 2014 champion. However, 2004 would see the worst out of Harvick as he and Matt Kenseth kept spinning each other out during a caution in a Pocono race. Almost similar to Ross Chastain and Denny Hamlin, but definitely uglier. Harvick would, for the most part, show respect to veterans of the sport, but the same could not be said for Joey Logano, a now two-time champion of the NASCAR Cup Series. Joey Logano would get under the skin of many drivers in his younger days, including the 2014 champion of Kevin Harvick. After some rough racing at the end of a Pocono race, Joey Logano didn't hold anything back as he would have this to say about the incident.
Next turn, I don't know what his deal is with me, but it's probably not his fault. You know, his wife wears a fire suit and the family tells him what to do, so it's probably not his fault.
It seems like Pocono gets the best out of drivers because one of Logano's most disrespectful moments came from the track just a few years later when Joey Logano bumped Mark Martin out of the way instead of cleanly passing him with just a few laps to go. Many fans point to this moment as the day respect was no longer given in the garage area. However, if you want my honest answer when NASCAR lost a lot of respect in the garage area, then look no further than the 2014 playoffs. Brad Keselowski went on an absolute tear in the early 2010s. However, he became public enemy number one after two big races in the 2014 playoffs, Charlotte Motor Speedway and Texas Motor Speedway. In these two races, Brad Keselowski raced drivers so aggressively that he upset the likes of Denny Hamlin, Matt Kenseth, and even Jeff Gordon. Of course, aggressive racing is common as a sign of disrespect in the sport, but what happened after the race at Charlotte Motor Speedway can only be classified as embarrassing. During the cooldown laps, Brad Keselowski showed his displeasure with the three-time Daytona 500 winner by running into him multiple times all the way down into the pit road area. This caused other drivers to get involved as Brad Keselowski ran into a parked Tony Stewart while chasing after Denny Hamlin, resulting in Stewart backing into the 2 car, resulting in heavy front damage. The incident continued back in the garage area as Hamlin continued to show his displeasure over Keselowski's driving style. However, he would not be the one that would truly get his point across.
Well, looks more. That's Matt Kenseth. You hit me under yellow. You hit me under yellow. You hit me under
Matt Kenseth attempted to tackle Brad Keselowski in between the two haulers, leading into a small skirmish between the two teams. Surprisingly, no penalties were given to any of the parties involved, but many knew how much internal damage was done. Drivers were no longer racing each other with respect. The point of aggression was too severe, and NASCAR couldn't do anything to change this from happening. Except, maybe they did. Throughout this video, I have talked about drivers and their moments of disrespect, but to be honest, most of it is not their fault. Since 2004, NASCAR has been changing the championship format in hopes to cause more excitement in the sport. The original chase for the Cup format did lead to drivers racing more aggressively, however, it was mostly to get into the top 10. Fast forward 10 years later, and NASCAR decided to change the point system once again, making it so that if a driver won, they were locked into the playoffs. This created chaos from the beginning as drivers did everything necessary in order to get the victory, even if it meant upsetting a few drivers in the process. If a driver is not willing to be selfish enough to go for a victory, then it can now lead to them missing the playoffs, or even worse, costing them their ride. NASCAR has tried to restore order in hopes to bring back more respect into the garage, but unfortunately has made it even worse. Last race at Circuit of the Americas, it got so bad that multiple drivers were guilty of slamming into the side of cars on the restart, leading to many drivers being upset, including teammates, where Daniel Suarez would actually bump both Ross Chastain and Alex Bowman on the cooldown laps heading into pit road. Now I want to make it clear, this video is not to point a finger at any particular driver or NASCAR in itself, but rather show that this is not a problem that has spawned overnight, but rather a problem that has been growing for over 25 years. Everybody involved in the sport is guilty of showing little to no respect out on the racetrack. Young drivers have been grown into this style of racing and have never really had to deal with the consequences that come from driving disrespectfully out on the track. Veterans today drive with respect, but evidence of their past shows that they could be just as guilty as drivers we see today, and NASCAR has done no one any favors by making it so that the only thing that matters in the sport is winning. Was Kyle Busch correct on his statement that no one in the garage area drives with respect? For the most part, yes, but is there a quick way to fix the problem? Unfortunately, no. As it took decades for this problem to reach this point, it will more than likely take decades to fix the issue, and it's not going to come from one incident, one driver, one team, one group of drivers, or even NASCAR itself, but rather the racing culture as a whole. Small steps for now would be drivers today to start taking credibility for actions rather than blaming it on something else, and even for NASCAR to be more stricter on aggressive racing. Of course, that's way easier said than done. Basically, it's out of our hands as fans, and the only ones that can truly change it are the ones who put on the shows week in and week out.